Hello and welcome to episode 3 of season 3. Um, and this has been, at least in Moscow, one of the coldest, I think, winter, at least for now, on record. And when I've seen your cover shot you sent me for this episode, I thought, isn't that the greatest healthy choice for the upcoming winter months to have this winter soup to warm yourself up, warm your soul up. Could you just give me a hint how you've come up with this? And I know you like cooking, you love cooking, and
Yes.
yeah, and how's that working out for you?
Well, for me, cooking is a way to stay in the present moment. When I'm cooking, I don't have to think about the past or the future. I'm just cutting an onion or I'm putting some beans in water. It's actually kind of meditative because I'm not purposely thinking I'm meditating, but I mean for me, it's so easy to relax by cooking. Now, some women and men don't like to cook and they like fast food and they don't want to mess with it. But for me, it's just something that really helps me relax.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the cover shot that you see here, and I hardly ever cook from a recipe. I cook from what my mother taught me, my mother-in-law, my sisters-in-law, various places that I've visited, my old aunts. So I generally cook from what I've learned other watching other people cook, which is a long way to get to the answer of your question. Let's talk about the cover shot.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
cover shot is of some what I would call flat beans or butter beans. So I would take water and I would soak the butter beans, and then in another pan I would put a little bit of olive oil, like a skillet, olive oil, chop up some onion, some tomato. I don't know, whatever I felt like throwing in there. I think that time I put in a little bit of cumin, some paprika, black pepper, salt. I just smell different things and decide what to add. So I'm not working from like a printed card.
Oh,
So on one saucepan, I've got the dry mixture going, and then the butter beans are kind of soaking. And then when they get, maybe after I've soaked them a few hours, I might drain them. Then I might lightly put them in the saucepan and let them absorb some of the flavors there. Then add more water and just sort of keep it on a low roll. Just let it cook for a while and let the mixture kind of go into the beans.
you see that's here comes the recipe, right? And all those ingredients there, I think they're wonderful. And I usually think that the warm up winter soup should, I don't know, have something like garlic or onions and
Yes.
olive oil and I don't know, a little bit of smoked paprika or something. That the thought itself makes me like much warmer myself. When I was
Yes.
growing up, my
Well,
grandmother
yeah.
cooked soup all the time.
Go ahead.
No, no,
Oh,
I just
really? What? No. Well, for me, I can either take it in a couple different directions. I decided to take this one in more of a little bit of a Middle Eastern direction, which has had cumin and yeah, but you can also make it more Italian and don't use the cumin, but use a little bit of oregano, a little bit of thyme or something like that, THYME.
yeah.
So yeah, well, I'm excited to do this episode on winter soups, and we are in season 3. Season 2 was called autumn, which precedes winter. And at the end of the summer, quite often people have a lot of vegetables, especially if you have a little piece of land and you've been growing some tomatoes or squash or bell peppers. And at the end of the summer, sometimes people will gather those vegetables and then turn those into some kind of soup for the fall or winter. Have you ever grown any vegetables out on the land?
Absolutely. I was gonna tell you that my grandmother, when I was growing up, well, it's a Russian food. I mean, the soup, it's like national food. My grandmother cooked soup all the time, at least like few times a week throughout summer and few times a week, like maybe even every day during the winter. And you mentioned the winter season, season three, and I think, what about the colors? You know, the Christmas is coming, and what if you wouldn't that be great if you kind of add some red color in red and green, of course, because that's a Christmas color. I think,
Yes,
like
yes.
maybe add some beets or I don't know. I'm not a cook.
Okay, well, I'm saying there's different types of soup. I guess one of the famous Russian soups that people in the world know about is borscht.
Right.
It's made
That's
from
what I
beets.
meant.
So how is that made? I have never made it.
Well,
How would your
you have to have like a lot. I mean, a good piece of meat for the borscht to be great, and the rest is irrelevant. Once you had this meat, just throw in everything you have, like a pizza. You cover the
yes.
bread with everything. That here you are. Same here. Once you have this nice meat or a bone, that's I guess that's like half way to success already. And or a chicken. Some
Well,
make it a chicken or a turkey carcass. Have you ever like used chicken or turkey in your winter soups?
okay. Well, you have yeah. I've got like like five answers to three questions. Yes, I love to make. I like to make winter soups. Another soup that I like to make is you'll take a ham, and it's made in the South a lot. It's called split pea soup. So you'll get the dried peas, split peas. They're dried in a bag, and then you kind of reconstitute them with a ham bone, and then salt and pepper and a
Mm-hmm.
couple pieces of onion, and you let that cook. So the smell of split pea soup with a ham bone in it is very popular in the southern parts of the United States. And you know, I don't know, like if if you were going to go back in time and have some soup that your grandmother made when you were a little boy, what would be a soup that you can remember that she made?
The borscht, of course, like you mentioned before, it was simply delicious, and it's red. And if you put some like onions on top of it, it has both red and green, and it associates with Christmas somehow, with New Year's
Oh, okay.
festivities and
Okay,
all.
so the soup is served in a bowl, then you come and sit at the table, and then there would be like fresh onion cut up and
Hmm.
maybe some fresh parsley or something that you add to the top as a garnish.
Yeah, and the sour cream as well. And it's just
Oh,
takes
okay.
me back in time. It warms you and make I don't know. It's very warm and comforting. Speaking of which, as we were like discussing cultures, I think many great Mexico has like great traditions. When you want something to eat like very warm, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Well, there's a lot of different soups in Mexico. I think soup is called caldo, and I know that there's one soup that's famous. I'm from San Antonio, and my uh, grandparents and aunts lived on the west side, so that was the more Mexican and Italian side of San Antonio. And there are these little old cantinas, like little small restaurants, cafes that are open early in the morning on Sunday morning and Saturday morning. And one of the soups that is very traditional is called menudo.
Hmm.
So people that have been out drinking and dancing and carousing all night in the morning, they have a hangover. So
Hmm.
quite often they would go to these little cantinas or little cafes, get a strong cup of coffee and eat menudo, which is made from the intestines of a cow.
Oh.
And it is a very delicious and famous soup. There's another one called lengua, which is made from the tongue of an animal. So I think many Americans might find eating intestine soup be kind of weird or like, oh, wow, we're having tongue soup. That's creepy. So I think as we go around the world and look at different things, there's a lot of, if you just taste it, you'll like it. So, Sadly, Anthony Bourdain, died this past year, but he was a great food adventurer who went around the world and had, his television program sampling different foods from around the world. Did they have tongue soup in Russia
Oh, I
or
love that. I love that a lot when I was a
intestine?
kid. I haven't tried it, haven't tasted it for a while, but I remember immediately takes me back in time. It's funny thing, strange that you mentioned that.
Tongue soup? You've had tongue soup?
Yeah,
Spooky.
yeah.
Well,
Why?
another
I mean,
another.
no, it's delicious.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, the tan part is like I loved it.
Well, I was somewhere. I don't even know where I was. Maybe I was in Acapulco. I was someplace in Mexico. I don't know where I was. Maybe Mexico City. And I like to try. I like to go to like authentic places. So we went to this place, and we were going to eat some soup that was called something like the Seven Gifts of the Sea or something like that. Like I know what shrimp is, I know what scallop is, but I like looked into my bowl wondering like what the heck is the rest of that stuff. So there was a little bit of octopus cut up in there and who knows what else, but that was pretty tasty too.
Mm. Well, makes me want to try it. So I think we should agree that all the recipes all over the world people have for their winter soup are like the best way to get us through this pandemic winter.
Exactly. Well, I wanted to talk about another soup that is very, I had just came to my mind as we were thinking of doing this episode. When I lived in Istanbul and Ankara, I learned from some very old ladies from these villages who were like the grandmothers living with their families in the cities now, a soup that's called tarhana soup.
Hmm.
And what it is, at the end of the summer, you look at your what's left over in the garden. You might see some tomatoes, you might see some squash, and then what you do is you take a cloth, and you might if you were living out in the country, you would spread it out on the ground. But if you're living in a city, you spread it out on a big wooden table. You take like a cloth, and then you uh, lay out without cooking
Hmm.
uh, tomatoes, bell pepper, onion, squash. You just lay those vegetables out and you wait for the sun to dry them, and you put on top of that the spices you want. So maybe I don't know, you could put mint, you could put salt, pepper, or you could do paprika, or you could, whatever spices you want. And then on top of all that, you pour on yogurt. So this becomes this kind of gloppy mess, which dries in the sun and becomes like powder or little crumbs. So the vegetables have turned from the garden to a dried crumb, and then you rub it with your hands. So a tarhana party is women getting together to make tarhana soup. So all the women would come together. I suppose on the land, women would come together in the village and make it at four or five women would come together,
Hmm.
but we would make it in the city. And once you rub it in with your hands, you know I always say the sun is in it, the love is in it, the fresh vegetables are in it. And then what you do is once it's dry and there's no moisture in it, you put these crumbs in jars, and you might have 5 or 6 or 10 jars of tarhana, so that in the winter, when it's cold and it's freezing and there's like coal smoke blowing all over Ankara, you get your tarhana crumbs out and you reconstitute it into a soup by adding water, and if you want to add any kind of meat, but you and it just smells so good, and you just sit in the winter with a hot cup of tea, and your tarhana soup is cooking on the stove.
This
Very
is so
yummy.
great. I mean, it's poetic too because you said that love and sun and everything in it. I thought we could make a poem out of it.
Yeah, maybe I
We should.
should. But yeah, that's a good idea. I think that, as you've described, your memories, your fond memories of being a little boy at your grandmother's house. And there's something about grandmothers that are very wonderful. different types of things that they made for us as we were growing up. So I hope our subscribers, listen into some of our future episodes. We're going to talk about some more stories and poems and trains and maybe even trucks and planes. So, you have any closing thoughts on soups? Winter soup?
Though all I want to say is I want some soup.
Okay, that sounds good. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.